What's up, guys? It is the Bad Wolf. Once again, I want to thank you for chiming in and spending your time with the old man and the old werewolf himself. So, what is this video about? Glad you asked. This is about people standing up for their rights, but not just anybody. This particular person, I believe, is a civil rights activist or a constitutional, not a teacher, but basically, there's somebody who knows what in the they're talking about. Okay. So once again, I think it does talk about her as being a part of civil rights. She's knowledgeable, kind of like myself, but she actually does it even more so for a living. So with that being said, I definitely want to play this video where she stands up to the city council, and she's quite impressive. I don't usually throw around the title of being impressed all too often, if ever. And this particular person does that. So let's take a look and let's break into this. So this is Pennsylvania, and the town is Allenton or Allentown, Pennsylvania, or PA. And this is the city council she's addressing. And her name is Tanawa Downing. Okay. And I'm going to add her here. She can be found on TikTok. So we're going to call this fair use. All right. Because this was done in the public domain. And she does give permission to say, please like, follow, and repost. So that's what we're doing. So with that being said, let's get over to the screen share. I'm going to apologize for the video. It's going to be kind of small for you guys, but the audio I'll try to get up, so it should be pretty good. So let's take a look at this impressive young lady. And we need you to be like her and me and to take action and do your part. So let's get over there.
Have to go through the whole amendment process.
Okay, it says if you want to change the Constitution, it must be done by an authentic act of the people.
And then state law would trump the charter.
Constitution trumps what it said there is Constitution, the Constitution trumps state law. Now, there's a couple of things, layers going on here. First, you've got we the people and God, okay, sovereigns. Then you've got the Constitution for the United States. Then you've got the government and their Constitution of the United States. You've got the states, and then you've got their corporate law. So the Constitution for the United States of America trumps all of the other laws. It cannot just easily break, though, private law or religious. Okay. And so essentially, what we call the public is actually private, but it's so big, it's called public. So that it doesn't get the full benefit of being private. It's public that has aspects of being private. And you look at they are in agreement. Some of these chucklings do not know their state is already in agreement that has removed their complete sovereignty. And anywhere where your rights and freedoms and liberties are in jeopardy, the Constitution takes precedence. But you can get into some private things that are harder for them, the Constitution, to back you on if you're enjoying the benefit. If you use family court, that's the state's product. Driver's license, that's the state's product. Marriage, that's the state's product. So within their public, you're creating a private thing between just you and them. But if done wrong on a constitutional level, the government can intercede if you bring them into your matter. Otherwise, in general, it's a contract. You must abide by it. So let's keep going. So this is Jessica Saxton. She's a civil rights advocate and litigator. Okay. So let's take a listen. and you might be impressed.
Jessica, I'm a civil rights advocate and litigator from Washington, D.C. I'm here to provide public notice, and this is in accordance with U.S.C.'s Rules of Civil Procedure, as well as Rule 17 and Rule 20 of the United States Supreme Court. The Constitution for the United States is the overarching requirements that every state must follow.
Did you hear her say the Constitution for the United States, not of? Jessica, you're welcome on my platform anytime you want to come and talk.
I don't think anyone here would disagree with that. States are not able to enact their own alternative legislation as substituted for the guarantees of the Constitution. That would mean that your state laws are more powerful than the Constitution. That is unlawful. Clause 1 of Amendment 5 states that no person should be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment by a grand jury. However, the state of Pennsylvania has enacted its own alternative legislation that substitutes your prosecuting attorneys and your police officers to charge by way of information as opposed to indictment. That is unlawful. An emolument violation is when you pay a public official to break the law. There are two areas of the Constitution that reinforces this. The first is Article 1, Section 10, and that's where it states that no state shall create any law that shall impair the obligation of contract. So police officers, your prosecutors, your judges, they're all under a contract. That's a contract to perform based upon the oath or affirmation that they took to support and defend the Constitution. The contract perimeters are defined within the Constitution, so when a state enacts a law and then directs their agents to disobey that law, that is in fact a violation of Article 1, Section 10. The 14th Amendment is the other place that you'll find this reinforcement of the issue, and that's where it states that no state shall create or enforce any law that shall abridge the privileges or immunities of United States citizens. Privileges and immunities of United States citizens are at a bare minimum those that are enumerated within the Bill of Rights and the first 10 amendments.
Did you hear that? Enumerated means those that have been numbered, but it goes farther than that. We have rights beyond those. Those are just to ensure the bare minimums. So we have unenumerated rights.
They cannot be impaired, ever. The state of Pennsylvania, unfortunately, has enacted a law in its inferior constitution that is permitting public officials and law enforcement officers, whom you all pay, to violate the rights of the people and thus violate the Constitution. As a result, we have an inordinate amount of people currently in prison here in the state of Pennsylvania, illegally and unconstitutionally. Mr. Tanoa Downing is preparing to litigate this issue at the United States Supreme Court on behalf of more than 700,000 people currently imprisoned here unconstitutionally in America. I'm here to provide notice to you today that you cannot continue to pay public officials to break the law. That is a crime. And I do have a notice that I would like to give to the city clerk, please, to put on the record, and you guys can take this and read it at a later time. Thank you so much.
Get up, girl. Oh, we ain't done.
Yes, sir. So my name is Tanoa Downing. I'm the civil rights litigator for Washington, D.C. that Ms. Saxton was just talking about.
Okay.
I'm here because I want to provide a little bit of...
So that's a husband and wife, and he is a national civil rights advocate litigator. So he's Tanoa Downing, and she's Jessica. Okay, I wasn't sure from the video. I only watched part of it. So let's get back to it, though.
Clarification so we can understand what just happened, what was just said. I have approximately 46,000 criminal affidavits on behalf of affected victims that have been charged by way of information, not by indictment, as required by the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, these affidavits, they identify two different crimes. The first crime is Title 18, subsection 242, which is deprivation of rights under color of law. What that statute says is that any person who, under the color of any state statute, ordinance, custom, or regulation, deprives any person of any rights secured by the Constitution commits that crime. The second crime is Title 18, subsection 241, which is conspiracy to deprive of rights. What that statute says is that when two or more persons conspire for the purpose of depriving any person of any rights secured by the Constitution commits that crime. So when your police officers, whom you all pay, when they go out and they choose to rely upon an inferior state statute that directs them to charge by way of information, not by indictment, as required by Clause 1 of Amendment 5, they are committing a crime. Both of these, in fact, when they hand it to a judge and ask that judge to hold this person over and that judge decides to do so, they've established a conspiracy by and between themselves and the prosecuting attorney. What we're here today is to let you guys know that we're no longer going to allow you to continue to pay your public officials to commit crimes against the people of the United States in violation of the Constitution of the United States. Now, the law is a criminal conspiracy for public officials. What that states is that any person who, having knowledge of any of the wrongs conspired to be done, and who have the power to prevent or aid in the prevention of a commission of same, neglects or refuses to do so, may be joined to dispense the action. So upon being provided with this notice, letting you know that you're paying for police officers to go out and commit an unconstitutional act and a crime, then I'm going to ask you guys to please, let's go ahead and stop doing that. You can either, one, stop paying those police officers to commit the crimes, or two, you can direct them to act in a lawful constitutional manner consistent with the obligations that they have codified in the Constitution for the United States of America. The alternative is that we will have to start converting these criminal affidavits into criminal complaints, and I don't want to go down that path, and neither do you want me to head down that path. So we've been in contact with the director of the FBI, as well as also Senator Kennedy of the Senate Judicial Oversight Committee. They both agreed that when the state and agents of the state decide that they're going to abridge federal law, particularly constitutional law, they are subject to arrest. We don't want to go down that path, so don't make us have to do it, please. Now, I'm not saying these are good people. I'm not saying these are lawful people, but what I am saying is these are all rightful people who had rights that were constitutionally protected that your agents have chosen to abridge, and we need to stop doing that. So I implore you to please step up, discharge the duties of your office, fulfill the obligations and promise that you made to the people of the state of Pennsylvania. Let's choose to protect, defend, and preserve the Constitution for the United States of America. Thank you guys so much.
All right, so real quick, essentially you mentioned three things. One, deprivation of your rights. Two, conspiracy. And three, operating under color of law. So not only are they depriving you of your rights, they're colluding under 241 and 242. They're operating under color of law because they are not in fact the law. They are a legal aspect. They're a mall security that's operating as if what they're teaching and doing and upholding is the American Constitution and law, and they are not. The government never gave them the ability to operate like that. The courts can switch over a little bit, but they generally don't. They treat you as if you are a member of theirs, which is a U.S. citizen, instead of a private person, an American. That ain't right. So, what is felony of misprison? Felony of misprison is when somebody like me informs the local law enforcement or any three-letter agency about crimes done and they do nothing. They are guilty of what's known as felony of misprison. To report a crime, and that official person or trustee, cop, sheriff, whoever else does nothing, including the district attorney, chief judge, chief of police, and they do nothing, they are guilty. And because they took an oath to the United States of America to uphold these values and truths that we hold self-evident, that's treason. I don't think you like the penalty for treason. That's it for now, guys. Check me out over on Badwolf. Let's see, BlackSite32, JamesLovett.com, and on my other YouTube channel, Badwolf Unrestricted. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching. Peace. Go do your part.